Welcome back, friends, to the Integrated Mindset Podcast. We're excited to be back in front of the mic. This is one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Recording podcasts together. It's been, we did a series of podcasts and put them out. So it's been a while since we've done this. So excited to be back. Sitting side by side with my good friend here, best friend, Heidi Sawyer, my co-host to Integrated Mindset. So today we're going to have a conversation. First of all, actually, before we do that, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm busy today because we've just got back from, 5 days at the lake and enjoying ourselves. And what comes with that is a little bit of pile up of a few things to do, tasks and things to follow up on when you get back. But it's worth it.
Yeah. Sometimes I question whether vacations are worth it.
Yeah.
Little breaks and times away from the daily interaction with business and life, because you come back and you're like, oh, the to-do list is twice as long, but all good. You lean into it. And
it's an opportunity to grow your capacity,
That's
right? Like, okay, all right, let's see if I can get everything done in 2 days. I would normally do in like 5 or 6 days.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's grow the capacity. So today, I want to share with you a quick story. And I always love when life presents us with the ability to explore certain principles of life that then we can actually bring back and relate them to neuroscience that we've learned. And when we're just out and we're exploring, we're on vacation, we're doing something fun, and we're like, hey, well, that's just like life, right? So here's the story. The story is that in the projection forward a little bit is this ability for us. Here's what I think is sometimes the problem. Sometimes people talk about being present too much. They try to be so present. Oh, you got to be in the now, be here now, right? And that's fine. There's only a certain amount of safety, psychological safety, and growth that can be actually found by being in the present moment. There's also this aspect of our neuroscience, of our neuropsychology, that wants to know what we are going to be doing later and how we're going to be able to provide later and how we're going to be able to make an impact later. And so what is the balance between our eyes being fixed and in the present moment versus taking our eyes down the road a little ways, right?
And let me just say, I think the reason why people say be here now is because usually when people are somewhere else, it's because they are either future tripping or past tripping in a negative way, right? They're like consumed by worry about what's going to happen in the future, or they're consumed by regret or frustration over something that's happened in the past. So being here now, in that sense, is a way of not doing something that's not productive, right? So if you're here now, you're not doing that non-productive future or past tripping. But there's a difference between projecting forward into the future in a productive way and doing it in a non-productive way. And a lot of times we catch ourselves worrying about things that 99% of the time never happen. So that's not really what we're talking about, but I just want to add a little layer of perspective to that is why that's so popular, being here now, because in most of our experience, not being in the present moment means that we're in some kind of negative
taking the past and projecting it forward. And that's what we want to avoid by being here now. But we're saying going beyond that and actually intentionally deciding what we want and where we want to go forward and bringing that back now. That's the difference. The difference is between living in the past and projecting it forward. Well, this happened. That didn't happen. That should have happened. That could have happened. I would have done this. Oh, I hope I don't do that. Hope that doesn't happen again. And you're actually then are putting yourself into a cycle of fear and of doubt and of shame and of guilt, projecting that, shining that forward and creating more of that in the future. Right. So here's the very relatable story. So when I was in my 20s, I rode dirt bikes with a group of friends. And one of the things that we said, when in doubt, twist the throttle. Right. So
of course you did.
Right. And my point, and this is a kind of a life principle, like legitimately, you didn't always know how you're going to get out of a sticky situation when you're riding like single tracks with a dirt bike, meaning that they were very narrow trails. They were very technical trails. It wasn't like riding on a logging road. Right. And so one of the things that you would do is legitimately when you're riding kind of aggressively and fast and you're putting along, doing your thing, you would just point the steering wheel, the tire, where you want to go, and you would twist the throttle. Like if you let go of the throttle, you slowed down too much, typically you would lose control of the bike and you would find yourself kissing a tree or something, right?
Right.
So this last weekend, Colton and I, we have these little like mini bikes. They're super inexpensive little like lawnmower engine mini bikes.
Colton's our 10-year-old in case you're listening for the first time.
Yeah, so Colton's our 10-year-old. So we got these two little mini bikes that are they kind of like really good suspension. They're like more like little cruisers, right? Yeah. But still for him, he's fairly new to the concept of riding. So
yeah, you guys, I rode one, so they're very beginner.
They're super beginner. So anyway, but he still had a couple of moments where he let off the throttle coming around a little corner where we were going up a little bit of a hill, and he kind of was letting off the throttle because there was an obstacle right in front of him. There was a rock or a root or something like that.
Yeah.
And he focused on the rock right in front of him on the corner. So therefore he was worried about how he was going to get past that and make the turn. So he let go of the throttle and the bike turned over on him and it landed on his leg and it bruised his leg a little bit. He was completely fine. There was no injury whatsoever, but it kind of scared him a little bit and it frustrated him and he didn't know why. And so I came back and I taught him, I was like, well, when you're riding a dirt bike, son, you got to take your eyes past the obstacle that's right in front of you. Like, you've already got past that rock or that root. Like you have to know that that's already done. Right. And take your eyes like around the next corner, around the next bend, to the next straightaway, and point your tire in that direction and twist the throttle.
Yeah.
Right now, these are, again, very simple bikes, not very powerful, but the principle remains the same.
Yeah.
The principle remains the same and I'm not saying, just be clear, I'm not encouraging people to grind and to grit it out. What I'm encouraging us to do is to be able to recognize, okay, there is a level of presence that we need to be able to create in this present moment. And this is now and later. You actually, from a neuroscience perspective, called it's now and later circuitry, right? We first learn how to be okay now, right? So here's the corner. I'm coming around the corner. I understand that that's my obstacle, but then if I want to get past it, I don't necessarily even focus on that rock. Right. I take my eyes forward on the trail of where I want to go. I point the tire in that direction and I twist the throttle. So in life, how does that relate?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Driving a car, there's lots of little yellow or white lines and dots on the road, but you're not looking at every single dot and going, okay, the dot. No, your eyes are, on the horizon. You're moving ahead of where you actually are. And I think that it does apply as a metaphor for life, because if you get caught up in looking at every yellow dot on the road, you're gonna, I don't
know if you remember this. When I first started learning how to drive, you just triggered something, a memory. When you first started, my dad gave me this advice and I completely forgot about it until you just said that. I was kind of very active with the steering wheel, right? I was left and I was right and kind of, a little bit, that type of experience. And my dad goes, take your eyes further down the road, Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. And then the further down the road, my eyes went, like there was less adjusting that needed to happen.
Yeah.
My steering wheel was able to stay more straight, and it's kind of like sit back and kind of relax and enjoy and kind of enjoy driving a little bit more. Right. And I think that, so that's the principle. Like we use it, whether we're talking about twisting the throttle and pointing the tire where you want it to go on a dirt bike to get past the current obstacle. Right. Or we're driving a car and we're teaching somebody, a 16-year-old, how to drive a car. They don't look at the road right in front of them. You're not going to be able to see what's happening up in front of you. What if there's an accident happening? Like you want to be able to see that. So you know to pump the brakes,
exactly.
Right. And so think about this with business. Think about this with life. Think about this with relationship. We legitimately, and I'm not going to give you the context, but we legitimately just had a conversation before we hit record about where is my attention going to be placed for the next 2 months, 3 months, to make sure that we are looking forward in life and not just burying our heads in the sand and then get there and be like, oh, now it's a traffic jam.
Mhm.
We didn't see that accident happening. Well, if you would have taken your eyes forward enough and planned and
Mhm.
been aware of what's going on, you would have known that there's something coming, right? So
Right.
you've been able to maybe take a different route,
Yeah.
right? And have more flexibility. So there's two things happening here. Number one is, and then I'm going to let you, help me make this more simple. Number one is if we focus too much on the present moment, we
Mhm.
fall where we are.
Mhm.
That's what happened to Colton. He came around the corner.
Yeah.
There was a couple of rocks, and there was an uphill climb around this left-hand turn corner that he was
Mhm.
going on, and we were going up a little hill, right? So he got kind of spooked on that corner. The rocks distracted him from where he wanted to go, and the bike fell over.
Mhm.
So being too focused on the obstacle that's right in front of you,
Yeah.
on the present moment, you then fall down where you are. That's
Yeah.
that's number one. Number two is that you are probably doing more course correcting
Like you
and
said, your example. Right.
more micro adjustments than necessary
Mhm.
if your eyes aren't forward focused,
Mhm.
right? If you aren't holding and you really cast out and kind of holding your eyes on where it is you want to go, you're not able, number one, you're not able to see future potential obstacles like
Mhm.
traffic jams, right?
Mhm.
Like collisions that are happening in front of you that have nothing to do with you.
Right.
Or yeah, you're just not able to, with a level of effortless ease, able to just make little tiny micro adjustments to the steering wheel, right? So you end up doing too much course correcting,
Mhm.
which then slows you down, makes it harder to get there,
Yeah.
and probably creating obstacles.
Yeah. Well, so this is principle two, right? What we focus on, we find. So if your mind is focused on obstacle,
Mm,
obstacle, 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 you're going to find more obstacles. Rather than like, hey, potentially I could have just floated right over top of these things. I could have just gone through this with so much more ease and so much more momentum toward the direction that I'm going. But when I'm focused on the obstacle, then I think there's a difference between, we have to have awareness. We have to have present moment awareness of what's going on around us, whether you're driving a car, you're making business decisions day to day, whatever it is, you need to have that present moment awareness. But to be able to fix your eyes further ahead, even just a few more steps ahead, you're going to create less resistance for yourself in that present moment by focusing further ahead. You're going to create natural momentum,
yeah,
that's going to propel you over some of those things that you could potentially get stuck on.
that's right.
Like I think about, for our different businesses, creating websites and things, getting really caught in the weeds on details that really didn't matter. But it's like when you hyper focus on those things that you perceive are obstacles right in front of you, you sort of miss the bigger picture of what you're creating or why you're doing what you're doing. And it's easy to get into that mode because what our mind naturally does is it collapses time. It's like, hey, there's something here. It's always going to be like this. We really need to focus on solving this problem right now. And that's just not the truth. So if we can get ourselves to project forward, a lot of these things will work themselves out.
Mm, yeah. Well, we get stuck on something that may potentially even like solve itself,
Yep.
right? And we then, like you said, we bring focus to the problem, we creating more of it, and then we then are looking forward, oh, that's how it's going to be later,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we are too focused on the problem now, our brain collapses time, and this is now how it's forever going to be. And I'm legitimately not able to even project forward and span the horizons, is what I like to say, and even see it being a different way. And I've said this before on other podcasts, but here's the question I have for you, for me, for anybody listening, is how much time do you intentionally spend actually allowing for your mind to create a model of a different experience later, right? If you were to really take inventory of what the activity of your mind is, you would be very, very, you become very, very aware and alert to the fact that your mind is constantly thinking about how it currently is or how it was, how things
Mm-hmm.
have been, what
Yeah.
has happened, how things currently are, and how to try to avoid the things that are undesirable or uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? The things that are causing discomfort later.
Yeah. Pay attention to your words, right? On a daily basis. Are you um forward thinking? Are you thinking about how you can solve a problem, or are you thinking about the discomfort of the problem? You know, if you find yourself complaining about what's going on, either for yourself physically, financially, whatever that is, if you're just looking at, oh, I need to lose weight or whatever it is, right? You're caught in that current experience instead of projecting forward and saying like, okay, how can I look at this from a more productive lens of, okay, great, that's good data. I want to be healthy. What would a healthy person do? If I'm my best self and I'm being healthy, how does that play out? What would I have for breakfast today if I'm being healthy? Right? Rather than just being stuck in the experience of feeling like you need to lose weight or you're uncomfortable in some way.
Yeah. So, so a program that has,
That's something people complain about a lot. So
yeah.
I think that's a good example.
Well, it's awesome you bring that up, because one of our future partnerships that's going to be launching here in the next month or so that we'll be talking about very soon on the podcast, and you'll see pop up on social media, as a fitness and nutrition aspect of what we're doing within our coaching business of the totality of things. And so one of the things that we get very clear and identify is the difference between outcome goals and behavior goals. Right? Outcome goal meaning I want to lose 10 pounds, and behavioral goal is what you're actually doing on a daily basis to achieve the outcome.
Right. Like I'm going to replace this having pancakes every day for breakfast with something that's a healthier option that fuels me. Right. That could be a behavior that you're changing.
Or even one meal, or even just how you find yourself thinking about your current situation, to the current obstacle, how you're then going to use your mind to help to explore how to, get past the rock or the stump that you're focused on, how to project your mind forward and see, oh, if I were to take my eyes into the future of saying the goal has been achieved, who was I being to achieve that goal? Right? What actions was I taking? What thoughts did I have to achieve that goal? And then to bring that experience, and this is the final component. So we talked about, yeah, it's great to be present, right? And that's really important, right? The power of now, Eckhart Tolle, yeah, super impactful, right? But you can't ignore the fact that there's a part of your brain that feels safer, right? Because I don't know, maybe Eckhart Tolle doesn't know about now and later circuitry. I don't know. I never heard him talk about it. I'm just saying that every single person listening to this podcast, you and me included, have now and later circuitry, right? It's part of neuroscience. So you can feel somewhat safe now. Like you can meet those needs now. You can feel okay now, being in the present moment, the eternal now. Man, trust me, I've studied about it plenty. But there's also, to get to that, a greater depth of psychological safety now, you also have to be able to project forward and say, this is how I'm going to make sure I have a roof over my head later. This is how I'm going to have connection later. This is what kind of tribe I'm going to be a part of, my circle of influence, the meaning I'm going to place on things, how I'm going to contribute. This is the later. Yeah. Right? This is what I'm creating. This is who I'm going to be, regardless of certain outcomes, right? This is my thoughts. These are my behaviors. This is my life later, right? And then being able to bring that later and experience it now. Then that is the eternal now, is the ability to allow yourself to be in such a place of confidence, of faith, of presence, that later your eyes aren't so fixed on the now and the obstacle and overcoming that, but your eyes are projecting forward, where 95% of the obstacles that you think you have to solve and have to overcome, those rocks that you have to get around with your dirt bike, like your bike just naturally goes right over top of them.
And there's nothing you have to do about the yellow dots in the road except for not look at it. Not obsess about it, not get caught up in it.
Focus on where you want to go.
Right.
Focus on your eyes further down the road, and allowing your body to receive and to accept and to rehearse and to become that later experience now. Now, if you do that, right, right? Then now you're experiencing the eternal now, because now and later are completely entangled with each other.
That's right. This current moment creates the next.
Creates the next.
And what you're experiencing right now is manifested from something that's already happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100% being able to focus forward, having that present moment awareness that we talked about, being aware there's something there, but not necessarily getting entangled with it. That's important. That's kind of like the starting point on your GPS, right? I need to know where I am to get to somewhere, but I also need to project forward and put in the address or location of where I'm going so that I have this reference point. You need both reference points to get from A to B. And then you need a lot of little turns and steps that happen along the way. Not too many, not so many that you're hyper focused on where you currently are. Because once you make a turn, if you have a GPS in your car, and we all have smartphones, once you make the turn,
well, not all of us.
Not all of us. We have a friend who doesn't actually have a smartphone, so that
there's one person
people
out there who doesn't.
One person. You know who you are if you're listening.
And we appreciate you.
Yes.
You're awesome.
But anyway, the point I was making is you're following the GPS, right? You have present moment awareness. That is your point, your first starting point to your destination. Cool. I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about that part because I'm thinking about the destination I'm going to. And I'm also not going to spend a lot of time thinking about a turn that I just made. I'm going to take the next turn, right? I'm going to get to the next light. I'm going to take the next turn. So there's lots of micro steps that happen in between there. It's just about staying focused enough on the experience that you want to have, getting to the destination. For me, maybe I'm going to say that's a great coffee shop because that's my love language. I'm thinking already I'm getting the latte, right? It's just, I know I'm going to get there. These things have to happen in order for me to get there, but I can anchor into that experience, put the coordinates in and start moving.
Well, and I would even give you, like, just like the GPS gives you how to get to the coffee shop when you put it in, right? Mm-hmm. Your mind will help you formulate the step-by-step micro adjustments and micro goals that help you get to the later experience, right? Your mind will actually do that for you. So the 3 steps is number 1 is, yes, be aware of that there's a rock that you need to navigate or a stump.
And where you are.
You know that you're on a trail in life where there's rocks, right? That is not a smooth paved road.
If you have a totally smooth paved road, like, let me know how you did that because I haven't met anybody who doesn't have obstacle.
And it's going to be boring and very known and familiar, and really your capacity is shrinking.
Yeah.
Right? So go find the dirt trail, right? Where there's rocks and where there's stumps and where there's turns and where there's hills, because that's where there's growth. That's where there's evolution. That's where there's transcendence. That's where you're going to explore and create who it is you want to be and have new experiences, right? So first of all, be aware that you're on a path where there's going to be rocks and stumps and turns and hills. Cool. I know that. That's my now, like, got it, right? Then step 2 is take your eyes towards the future, be clear about the experience you want to have, the impact you want to make, who you want to become, who you are, the thoughts and the emotions and the responses that you are creating based upon the fact that you know you're going to be traversing some rocks and stumps and hills and turns, right? Then take that later and feel that now, right? And point the tire, point this car, point your vision, point yourself.
Yeah, your focus
And your attention and your awareness in that direction, and then you will be amazed how many of these little obstacles legitimately just your dirt bike, let's say, right? And I told Colton this, if you just point the tire where you want to go, you twist the throttle, 95% of those rocks, your bike will just go right over top of. It'll just go right over top of it. You wouldn't have to think like, oh, look at what I did. Oh, look, I overcame that obstacle. Oh, look at, I rode over top of that rock. Like, no, your bike is doing it for you. Yeah. You're just the one projecting forward and deciding to continue to move forward.
Yeah. And your mind is the same way. If you can direct your mind to where you want to go, naturally, what you focus on, you find you will begin to get there. You'll begin to go, maybe I should call that person.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should do this. maybe I should do that.
Then we got to develop a new process for something. Oh, you know what?
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you naturally start to take those steps that get you to the destination that you're wanting to go to, whether that's a coffee shop or a dirt trail or whatever you're doing, or somewhere in business. We gave you lots of different analogies just because it's fun to find different ways to get things to click in.
You have to decide what that is for you and how you're going to relate this to your life in business, in relationship, right?
Yeah.
Don't focus on all the things that are wrong with your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Or your partner. Like recognize that your relationship is not where you want it to be. Mm-hmm. That relationships are like a dirt trail with roads or like with roots and rocks and turns and hills and ups and downs, right? And then take your eyes forward and imagine and start to think about who it is that you are being if your relationship is in a way that you desire it to be, right? Yeah. Do your part in taking your eyes forward and allow for your life, your relationship to overcome some of the smaller little obstacles and rocks and let things go and roll right over top of them because they're insignificant in the big picture of things, because they're not going to actually slow you down unless you let them slow you down. That's the only way those rocks in the road are going to slow you down is if you bring your attention to them, right? And not allowing yourself to focus forward. Does that all make sense? I don't even know.
A ton of sense to me, but
I might have to listen to this podcast back to make sure that I actually.
Oh yeah, tell us which analogies you liked better, as far as getting things to click in. Yeah, coffee shop, GPS,
or subliminal.
And if you want some more help around figuring out this now and later circuitry and really diving into some of the science behind this, why this works, how to practice this.
Yeah.
I'd encourage you to check out our integrated mindset program. We have groups starting all the time with different coaches. Right now, we have some coaches in training that are, doing some groups at a discounted rate, which is fantastic to take advantage of that and be able to be part of their training process and have, either Ryan or myself there to support on the calls as well. Great opportunity to really dive deeper into the work that we're doing here by checking out integrated mindset, reaching out to us, finding out how you can learn more and start actually putting some of these things into practice. Because it's great to think about concepts and ideas, but to actually practice it is where the magic happens.
Yeah. Get out of that pattern of listening to podcasts and reading books, but not actually applying any of it. Right. Listen to this and then begin to actually rehearse it, integrate it, figure it out to where it makes an impact in your life. Without action, information without action will lead to frustration. And we have to bring these things back and integrate them. And there's no real place in life or age that is wrong for this work. I'm right now finishing up a group of people who are in their mid 20s to late 20s. They're all about 25 to 29 years old. And the transformation that this group of individuals, both male and female, have experienced is incredible. They're still so like impressionable and able to like just change they're
more flexible, right?
They're just neuroplasticity, right? Their brain's able to change in a quicker rate. So that has been an absolute blast to witness these young men and women in their 20s and just recognizing, wow, what is the impact of that in their life to know these things and not be waiting until 35 or 40 to have a midlife crisis before they figure things out, right? So if you know of somebody in that age, right, like tune them in, have them reach out, because that's really the age group that I love working with too, and teaching these basic principles that govern our lives, how to apply them, how to integrate them to where then they make a massive impact.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited to be starting another women's group, possibly 2 groups in this coming September. And I have some current groups that are full, but if you're wanting to get in on one of those fall groups, reach out, because this program 100% will change your life. And it is all about integration and learning how to use these tools and apply them in your life. So thanks for listening today. Please share, rate, and review the podcast. It helps us get it out to more people. And we just really appreciate you being here. So thanks again.